Good morning, Victoria.
Good morning. I see
How
you
you
have your
doing?
celebrity shirt on.
What is this? What kind? I'm getting sick of everything with, I know you're probably not following the Taylor Swift and the Kelsey football player romance. You've seen that?
I've heard about it,
I
yes. I
know.
don't think there's anyone who hasn't heard about it.
And you know what's funny is that people are saying, "Oh, this is good for football. We bring non-football fans in," and and it's silly because if they show her 10 times a game, that's call it 30 seconds. That's 300 seconds. That's 5 minutes out of 3 hours. Is that really going to get you to the game?
Hey, people like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, well, it's another example of sensational stuff sells, and we both know that. What did we say in real estate? Sell the sizzle, not the steak. You tell me how
Mhm.
that. What do you do? Sell a sizzle.
Sell the sizzle. Yeah. Well, let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about what's going on. Why is everyone's head in the sand? Why is everyone
Oh,
not
it's getting crazy. I mean, we could alert others what we're experiencing. There's there's two things. There's unaware and head in the sand. Head in the sand is when you know, but you don't want to acknowledge it and you don't have a way through it. The unaware is we've been saying this, and it's the NAR leadership and local leadership is not giving you the truth. Either I think it's part of it that they're not willing to delve deep or get their attorney to explain what the allegations are, what the Department of Justice wants, and what already happened in the Sitzer case. And then we've allowed our union to have some self-appointed pundits lead us down the wrong road. I mean, specifically, without getting deep, a court used one standard and someone else and a lot of people using another standard, which can't win. And it's really, it could hurt us.
Yeah, absolutely. But where are the NAR attorneys? Why aren't they saying anything? Why are they letting this happen? Why there's no communication whatsoever?
Well, I heard a learned scholar, Rob Hahn, was asking, what budget do we have for legal defense? And he's an
Hmm.
outsider. What is the status of the appeal? I mean, or is it people are saying an appeal? There's a lot of reasons why it can't happen, especially if when there's more and more cases. So we don't need to say what happened. The cooperative compensation policy is there's a demand for it to be gone. And I asked the question of people, what will happen to buyer's agents when they can't get paid by the buyer or the seller? And I haven't gotten an answer from good friends of mine.
No, there's no answer. But no, actually, let me rephrase that. There is an answer. You and I were on a call just recently where we asked this question, and the answer was, well, we're just waiting. I'm sure something will happen. There'll be a workaround. We're waiting to hear what's going to happen. Buyers aren't going to pay on their own contract. So there has to be a workaround. We're just going to wait. Wait for what? What if nothing happens? What if they're not allowed to put any kind of compensation offering into the listing agent? What if that becomes the law? Then
Mm-hmm.
what will happen? Then they will have to do that contract. Oh, I don't think that will happen. Well,
Well, what's surprising is the person, we're not going to name anyone, but this person is a very fancy lawyer for a big title company. So my position is always with what formerly were called ancillary service providers, which were never really ancillary. How is a bank ever ancillary? I mean, realtors, I love them, but a bank is now extra, like pull them in, maybe. I mean, really? They give the money. So title, mortgage, home inspectors, movers, lawyers, everyone is was never ancillary. We're all integrated and to get this thing closed and help serve clients. So we're asking them what will happen to them, their company, when their referral partners are potentially not getting paid and therefore not involved in the deal. Where do their referrals go? And I will tell you that in our conversations and my own personally, these conversations don't get anywhere because they are not willing to acknowledge the truth and they are imagining an alternative that hasn't yet been even offered.
that's right. That's right. And I think that everyone is really just so set in the ways of the way things were done before that they're not even thinking that this will ever happen. My dog wants to get
It's
involved in the
okay. I mean, the
conversation.
dog
He's
has an
getting angry
opinion.
about the whole story. Come here. Stop.
It's okay. I
Um,
mean,
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's. I mean, look. I mean, even I would love to hear the input from Bocce the dog because That means, I know that means kisses, and some of these folks might kiss their income goodbye.
They might be kissing their income goodbye
Uh,
because they're stuck. I mean, when you said, "Oh, we're not going to name names, but this is an attorney," it doesn't matter. Every single person I talk to has the same answer. It's
well, I mean,
well,
let's be fair. This thing's less than 90 days old, and people in the world and people in real estate trying to sleep through December, right? So you're talking about the use, if you really think about it, from Halloween till today. Today's the 21st, ballpark, 22nd. That's 3 plus 4 plus. So you're really dealing with like about half of the actual time that went by. People are in their holiday, family, kids. I mean, no one's 23 in real estate. So they're moms, dads, age, kids around, holidays, a lot of expectations. So out of 90 days, which it's in its infancy, we've only focused maybe half the time. And then you got to get back to work and do the actual thing that you do. So it's no one's paid a lot of attention. And plus, this has been totally stagnant. The only thing that's happened in the original Sitzer case is there have been some motions which are required, for different forms of relief, and they're denied because they should be denied. And
well,
there's
been some motions. They're just going through the process. Nothing is going to change because the judge is pretty clear about where this is going. And I don't know why anyone is saying that. And let's talk about something else, okay? Because this is another topic. We have an agent in the industry that decided that he's going to take on the world and start speaking on our behalf. Where did that come from?
I think it came from a position of being interested. I mean, I think people who are willing to give an opinion, and I support anyone that gives their lawful opinion, can give it. I mean, if it's up to them to support it or not. I've even asked an individual if they'll support it, that their position. It's okay. I mean, we're here to get the patchwork quilt of those matters that define us. But the better question is, who I think is Andy Warhol, your 15 minutes of fame. This is happening in January. What happens on February 1st when there's no more audience, when the music stops and there's no more chairs? So it's okay. I mean, and everyone in life can choose who they listen to. The NAR leadership is given nonsense.
But the NAR leadership hired how many attorneys? Something like 200 of them, if I'm not mistaken. They've hired attorneys. They hired some really good attorneys, despite what everyone's opinion is about them. They are good attorneys. And the fact of the matter is they're attorneys. They went to law school. And now we have an agent that's coming out that is going up against the plaintiff's attorney, who filed a $200 billion lawsuit that's about to begin. And our attorneys are okay with that. One of our members taking on the other attorney, like that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, any member speaking at a school, so to speak, is, or potentially could hurt our union, because I'm sure our leadership is finding it useful to speak freely with their attorneys using the client attorney privilege. So I don't know what any individual knows, but wouldn't a law firm who's interested in protecting your interests, or wouldn't a client such as NAR or any of the other entities, doesn't matter, why wouldn't there be some stifling of speech of the so as to not to hurt themselves and to not potentially hurt some legal strategy by the attorneys? I mean, it seems like in this case, all the rules and all the normalcy are gone, where lawyers do their best. And these lawyers were, I looked at them and they were, I mean, I was blown away by the pages and pages and pages of accolades and the acumen and the law clerk, the judges that these folks were law clerks served under. I mean, you basically couldn't get better. And,
and I wouldn't expect anything less, because
I mean, how could you, with all the king's horses and all the king's men?
Right. We needed really top-notch attorneys.
Of course. And listen, NAR is our sponsor. I mean, everything realtors, let's get back. Realtors are the best thing ever. They help people. I help people. You've helped people that don't know the process.
In people's lives. Absolutely.
I mean, we're here for family. We're here for homes. We're here for holidays. We're here for financial gain, tax deductions, appreciation, profit. I mean, come on, it's the best thing going. And it adds to, but that doesn't mean that all those important points could possibly change the judicial standard that's used within the court system. I mean, it is a bit. I mean, it's contradictory. It's kind of unfortunately contradictory. But there was some of the parties were affected. Sellers were affected. There was allegations by private parties and the Department of Justice that certain people were prejudiced. So that's why the law and the courts all jump in. That said, I think it's dangerous for these. I mean, you wouldn't let someone come in at a restaurant and help you cook, right? You're cooking a great meal for the restaurant patrons, and they would let anybody get off their seat and come on and cook. I mean, that's crazy. But all of a sudden now we have people, and there's no limit. I could pop off. I mean, but where's the interest in maintaining the professional dialogue if something is known by a member and they're just giving the other side private information?
I think we're focusing on all the wrong things. That's what I think. I think that this is a very serious situation that the industry is facing. I think a lot of us are looking to NAR and we're not getting the answers. I mean, NAR really has not been forthcoming. They're not sharing information. They're not giving any guidance whatsoever or direction. We went through 2 presidents in just a few months. We're not really hearing from our attorneys. I mean, I know a couple of the attorneys went up on stage at NAR and they talked briefly, and they really didn't give any good, solid information. And I think that agents are out there just piecing it together, making their own opinion, and that's why we're seeing everyone saying, well, there's going to be a workaround. Oh, nothing's going to happen. Oh, this is going away. And, whatever they're imagining.
I heard people say, a good friend of mine said yesterday, it's business as usual. And I said, Steve. Oh, I just gave away his name, but there's a lot of Steves. A lot of realtors named Steve. I said, Steve. Right, I can't say that.
Inquiring minds want to know.
But I said, so Steve, when a seller doesn't offer compensation and if you can't secure compensation from the buyer, what will you do? And there's no answer. It's tragic because all of us say that there has never been an incidence that buyer's agents were paid solely on a buyer agency agreement. If anything, they sought the difference between what was offered, and they call that the delta, the difference, the change. And now, if there is an injunction where this policy can no longer be implemented, then everyone's going to be forced to pivot. And you mentioned the NAR lawyers. Let's say they did the best job ever. What our 1.5 million members need is not one telling remark at a conference. We need day-to-day real guidance. And because, listen, it's really not about us. It can never be said.
The remark that they said wasn't just one remark. It was, don't worry, we're going to appeal.
And I got that. But even if they gave you the life-changing information, it's not one day. You could be at work that day. It's got to be day to day.
Let's talk about the appeal, though. What are they appealing? Because we all know that is a very difficult thing to do. And I think it was Rob Hahn, you had sent me some questions that he had asked. And I mean, this is very true. I mean, one of the questions he said, and I'll actually just read it from his notes. He said, has NAR issued any communication regarding the size of the appeal bond, the NAR's and NAR's assets in order to post that bond? A general "we can fund it" statement does not really cut it. It doesn't. So are they appealing? I don't think they can.
Well, I mean, it's even premature, but you and I are saying, why are people not actively taking this approach? The whole project, since we talked, we started looking at this in 2020, 2021, is I have no problem telling the world, I'm grabbing the mic, that there's a huge problem here because business cannot be done as usual, and there is a new economy for buyer agent compensation. And I also say, here's why. My readings and my analysis and my input lets others know that we're not making this up. The DOJ and the plaintiffs said this, and it's so legit that Anywhere / Realogy and Remax already decided to settle. So they may not think it's crazy since they already gave up. The only question they have is what they offered, and the settlement will be accepted, and the DOJ, and it's going to be marked, we'll learn. The DOJ also said, whatever you say is not going to work. So My point to this, my whole assertion is people are left with no recourse. They want answers, but forget about what you want and I want and the
I
1
don't
million
know if
agents.
they want answers. I think everyone is looking the other way, saying, oh, it'll go away, nothing will
No,
happen.
I understand, but I tell you, the people that are not being considered are our clients, because there's some crazy idea that paying for representation is bad. I mean, people pay for everything. You want your car detailed, your dog groomed, you want to go to a dermatologist, you want to go to a pediatrician. There's so many things of need and value that you pay for. So imagine this, people are professionals that we know are fighting to not allow individuals to pay for compensation. I mean, we flip this narrative so bad that paying is bad. It's
I'm
better
not
to
sure they're
finance
not
it.
allowing them to pay. I
They're
think
not
they're
given the
not
opportunity. Oh, what
opening up the
they're not, hold
opportunity.
on. They're not telling them they can pay, and they're not offering a document or an agreement from which they can pay. So they're purposely, and you know, one of our trainers, Jay Macklin, says they don't want to bring up the uncomfortable subject of money. But the bad news is, I'm not saying you have to be buying a $3 million place or even a $500,000 place. Imagine not giving a consumer, a client to whom you owe fiduciary duty, the chance to pay. You're handcuffing them. You can't pay for what you need.
Because that's not where the focus is. That's why I'm saying I think the focus is in the wrong direction. When I talk, and I talk to numerous people on a regular basis, as do you, and we're always getting the same answer. And then we have, agents that are going out and saying, well, I'm going to challenge the plaintiff's attorney, and everyone's rallying behind him. That's not the focus. Why are you challenging someone who already won his case and is looking to change the industry? Here, what happens when things have to change? What do we do then? Shift the focus to, well, maybe we need to work on buyer representation agreements. Maybe we need to learn how to talk to them before we get to the house. Maybe we need to restructure how we present the commission base. Maybe it needs to be a different menu. Those are the things we should be focused on. But when you talk to any agents or brokers or title companies or attorneys, they're saying, oh, we're just waiting. Nothing will happen.
Of course. I
Everything
mean,
will be
but I
fine.
mean, why wouldn't an agent, if they're picking a company, should consider how seriously their own broker would enforce his or her own rights? Think about it. Buyer agency agreement is not their agent's deal. It's the buyer and the brokers. So
Mhm.
it's kind of crazy. If, let's say, you want to join a company, wouldn't you ask the broker owner, wouldn't you say to her, what will you do to enforce your rights?
Right.
And
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 when,
if they
when
don't
you're
have,
talking about that, let's like really drill that down, because when we talk to agents and we say this, they go, oh, that won't happen. Or buyers aren't going to pay. We'd have to it would be in the best interest of the seller to pay and continue to pay, or we're waiting for new disclosures. What if none of that happens? What if you have to go out and have that agreement between a buyer agent and the buyer? How are you going to handle that? How are you going to, and they're not really focusing on that. What about the agent who's now starting with a brokerage, asking the broker, how are you going to teach us how to do this? How are
Mhm.
you going to enforce it? Like you said, because we're talking about things that no one has really been in that situation yet. So they just
They
feel like
haven't
it's,
been there because they fully relied on the offer of compensation offered out. And who says that's a bad thing? That was the beautiful guarantee. If you saw a percentage, you could calculate the price, you knew what you're going to get, and you knew your split. So it's a beautiful arrangement. No one's going to knock it. And people said, that's pretty good. I'll take it. But you're even saying what happens in the ultimate eventuality that the demands made by this plaintiff and all future plaintiffs, if they're granted an injunction or the Department of Justice just ends it, like already happened voluntarily in the real estate board in New York City, that is. But why does it have to be? Why does getting buyer agreements have to be pursuant to an eventuality? Why can't it be today? Why can't, I mean,
you should be preparing today. Practice now before it goes into effect, so that when it goes into effect, we're already prepared. We already know how to do this, and
okay,
nothing.
then my question to you is why not get buyer agency agreements and demonstrate your value? you always love to say, wait a minute, I'm a buyer's agent. Why is my compensation determined by someone I never met? So so pretend this never happened. Let's pretend NAR wins, every corporate entity wins. And by the way, Canada, the CREA and the individuals, yeah, they all won. Look into this. Canada and Toronto won. They laughed off plaintiffs. So, I mean, they're basically America, but just nicer people. So they already, right?
Nicer and colder.
Right. They already won. So it's not beyond the pale, but even so that means those real estate agents in Canada, they don't they can maintain their CCP, but why wouldn't they give the buyer a chance to secure more? I mean, buyer wants to pay 5%, 7%. I don't know the numbers. We are precluding buyers from gaining the most. They're not this reliance on the CCP prevents a buyer from paying more for superlative services. Think about that. They're paying nothing as it's thought, regardless of how it's financed, and they're taking what they're getting versus paying up for the best meal, best pediatrician, best house painter.
Right. So you're looking at it from a different angle, that they have always paid it. So now allow them to continue to pay it and show them what they can pay for and upgrade the service and upgrade and upsell the compensation, right?
Mm-hmm. Justify it. Why not?
Right. Justify it. Why aren't we doing that? So that it goes back to the same question. Why?
Because they're relying on
the sand.
They're relying on the instruction to live within the safe confines of the offer of compensation. But listen, you and I both know, I know so many fantastic realtors that easily would be able to demonstrate their value, that are crack negotiators in the former market. These are people well known, well respected by the public and by the local practitioners. I mean, you know, there was a
truth be told, this is the best thing that can happen, because any really good, experienced agent who is working with buyers is never going to allow a listing agent to determine their income based on a contract that had nothing to do with the buyer agent.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So at that point, at that point, they've learned along the way how to demonstrate that to a buyer, and they will have a contract that says, this is what I make. If the seller is willing to pay it, that's great. You owe me nothing. If the seller's not willing to pay it, you would be, required to pay the difference. And here's what you get for that. This is what I do. This is how valuable I am. This is why you should be paying it. And they have learned how to articulate that properly, sell their value proposition, and get everything signed. Where the problem lies now is it won't be the difference of the balance. It would be the full amount. So those who have been doing what I said before are already ahead of the game, because they already know how to have the conversation. They already have the contract. Now they just have to change the actual compensation. And maybe they have to offer a few different varieties of it, but they have to do this. I have not seen anyone come to me and say, I've always done it this way. I've always, determined my own value. I never relied on any portion of what the listing said. I always did everything myself. I've not seen that yet. We will see that. Why are we not preparing for that? And when we talk to agents or brokers or any of the ancillary services, as you call it, we're not getting, hey, you're absolutely right. We should be focused on that. Let's teach this. We're getting opposition.
Well, because they haven't, no one's been harmed yet. Because, and this is the part that perplexes me, if an entity like RE/MAX, which was sued and decided to settle because they didn't wish to expose themselves to the potential liability, if they believed and agreed that their actions were violative of antitrust laws and they wanted to, would not be saddled with the liability, then how they keep doing it? That's what I asked the attorney of a board. I said, if something was determined to be violent, why is it happening today? And no one gives an answer, just because no one gave the checkered flag to change.
Because that's what we've always done, and it works, and no one's told us to stop.
But wouldn't that be? But
Eventually,
from
they're
a
going to
legal
be able to
but
stop.
from a legal perspective, wouldn't every time it happens give a chance to add a member to another class? Just because the law said that was filed in 2019, can't there be another one with another whole group of
But that's
slew of?
happening. That's
It is
happening right
happening. It
now.
is. It is. It's back.
But no one's paying attention to it. And then one
I,
day when the shoe drops, everyone's going to say, "What happened? Well, why aren't we allowed to do this anymore?" But we always did it. Let's go yell and scream. Let's go challenge people. Let's go, online. That doesn't work. What we need to do is really focus on when this happens, how are we going to continue business? How are we going to really demonstrate our value and continue in the business of serving the public properly?
there's that issue, and then there's also the issue that another thing that's been ignored, and this is extremely distasteful, is the arguments being, I should say, the perspective's been commission or no commission. But it's not, if no one's talked about, as you suggest, a menu. They want X%, Y%, or they're faced with 0%. But what about somewhere in the middle? What about something in the 3 digits, the 4 digits? What about some services that could center around negotiation or
Which is
sales?
exactly what the lawsuit was about, that everything should be negotiable and there should be a different scale of compensation for different types of homes, for different types of experience from the agent. Why is an agent who has their license, since last Tuesday getting the same commission as somebody
Right,
who's
and those are some of the indicia of the antitrust, anti-competitive, illegal to restrain of
And
trade conspiracy.
why is an agent charging the same amount if the lead came in easily, through a click of a button, or if it was a referral or whatever? Like everyone is working on that same commission, where now you'll see different menus, you'll see negotiations, you'll see if I sell you a house in a day, versus if I sell you a house, over 3 months. So there's going to be different ways of doing
Right,
it.
and I call that, this topic, I should say, has been called decoupling commissions, and that means the buyer pays the buyers and the sellers pays the sellers. But this is worse or better, depending how you look at it, than the decoupling. I call this the fracturing. If you have a mirror and you drop it, it's all fractured. So maybe you could pick up one piece of that mirror and say, "Oh, I definitely, man, I've been a professional. I never negotiated myself out of a paper bag. I can never even ask my boss for a raise. How am I going to handle this with this top producer on the other side and some really well-skilled business couple that knows what they're doing? They sold 14 homes. I need representation. I need negotiation." You could hire someone for that, or someone who is an expert in even new construction or coastal properties. There's so much to do with coastal properties based on environmental concerns. So these are specialties. These are specialties that, or maybe the Veterans Administration or seniors. I mean, these are specialties that people can't dabble. So maybe you would, if you're a senior looking for, or maybe you are a relocation person that really wants to know, if I'm in Chicago, where do I go in Arizona? If I'm in Massachusetts, where do I go? Do I go to Naples on this West Coast? What should I do? Come on, that's what travel agents do now. Travel agents tell you what to do in a city that you would never know by going to Google. They might say, "This restaurant stinks. Don't go there. It's a tourist trap."
Absolutely.
So,
And there's buyers that will want to pay top dollar to get white glove service all the way. And then there's buyers out there that will say, "Hey, I don't really need much. I just need some guidance on what the process is." And those are two very different skills, and it's two very different menus, as we
those
talked.
two opportunities are being ignored based on the demand to maintain the former status quo. And if you see what's going on, you're paying attention, there's basically no trend in which the status quo will remain. I mean, you can't have NAR, you can't have companies settling and telling me things are going to stay the same. Why they settle?
They're not going to stay the same. And anyone who tells you that really is not paying attention and just, again, putting their head in the sand and saying, "Well,
okay. And
I don't want it to change." And they're like holding on to what they did in the past because I made a nice amount of money and I liked the way it was before. it's going to change.
Okay,
Like,
so I mean, think
find
about it. How does NAR give no real information about these next steps, the motion practice, which are required. There's nothing special. They the other day the NAR plaintiff defendants wanted to have the court, the new one, stay and kind of freeze in time the next steps for the first case because new ones are filed, and the judge said no.
Right,
So
that was denied.
that's a perfect example of trying to stop time, and it was denied. So here we are, things are moving. If you go online, which everyone has access 24 hours, 7 days a week, you can see the position of the DOJ, where the United States government, its lawyers, wants this thing to stop. But we have agents, what's the word? Blabbering, whining, crying, why this former arrangement or this current existing relationship is warranted. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's scary to me.
You're seeing. You're seeing everyone from agents to brokers to leaders of, major real estate corporations all saying the same thing. Nothing's going to change. It's business as usual. We're going to find a workaround. None of that is going
to. So then you're right. So that means, to answer anyone's question, it's going to take a court order like anything else. Right. I mean, when a court order happens,
a smart broker and a smart leader in this industry is teaching their agents what to do if and when this happens. And I think it's more a matter of when, not if. What would be the downside of being prepared if, let's say, this was going to go away, which it won't. But
the downside is doing extra work. The downside is there is a downside. You have to do something you never did. It's painful to learn a new skill, and you're going to face even more rejection. I mean, it's easy to give out pancakes on Christmas morning.
Yeah, but you'll be so much better for it, and your expertise level just went so much higher. So if you're an agent that is just accepting whatever the listing agent is offering, you're just going, with the flow. If you're an agent that has already started working on representation of the buyer and asking for the difference to be paid by the buyer because you are representing that client, you're already ahead of the game. Now you will always make more, even if things stayed the same, because you're never going to accept what someone else is offering. Now that same person goes out and learns how to present to their client their own representation agreement with their own compensation built in and all different types of scenarios that they can choose from. Isn't that a better?
It sure is. Of course it is.
In the industry, what's the downside of having that?
You're saying what's the downside of that result? I'm saying the run up, the effort made to do something differently. I mean, there's been many corporate books and news sources that relating what people do when pushed in that position. I'm interested to know, and I haven't done any research by my own admission, that there are certain states, 9 or 10 states, that require buyer agency agreements. Okay. Now, but that to me means there's a recitation of each party's rights and obligations, and there's a commitment to compensate, I guess, if and when it closes. Maybe not, but I mean, you logically get paid at settlement.
Right. So, but those states that require that, it's been very easy for the buyer agent because most of them have said, we get paid by the seller, so we're representing you. You have to sign this agreement. And
so what you're saying is they're not really asking for income.
They're not really asking for anything. And those who do are only asking for a small portion. So in the event, like I work for.
So what you're saying is really, it's like a disclosure on steroids. That's what you're really saying.
Well, I mean, it is a representation agreement, so it's a little bit more than just a disclosure, but it's very easy to get someone to sign something when the fee might be very minimal. So in other words, you're a buyer and you come to me and I say, this is what I work for, but most of the time the seller is paying that, so you won't have to worry about that. But in the event that they don't pay that, you'll be responsible for the difference, and I need to let you know that, and you need to sign this because I'll be representing you. And here it is. What's the worst case scenario? You might have to come in with $2,000. We can just put that right into the loan. It's not a big deal, right? Well, things might change drastically now. I don't
Mhm.
see agents in those states saying, this is my fee. You're responsible for the entire portion of my fee. We're not relying on the listing agent at all.
Mhm. I got it. But the topic of this conversation we started offline is why is this very real event being ignored? The repercussions. Why is there no pivoting? I mean, there are how many national? I know that Florida just had its national conference. I should say its state conference.
There's like 200,000 agents in Florida. And of the 200,000 agents, I mean, how many are really focusing on, I need to up my game? I don't see very many.
Oh,
In fact, as we talk,
right.
they hit us with opposition. Why do I need to learn that? This works. No, that won't happen. Buyers aren't going to pay me. They will pay you if you know how to present this. Why wouldn't you want to learn that?
But right, but why wouldn't you serve your client? The part that gets me, I'm really binary. I know that somehow binary is a bad word. I'm binary where I think it's, why am I precluding clients who need help, want help, select you? The person who selects me doesn't want to pay me. They select you. So it's not just who answers the phone first from a Zillow lead, who can, who, if I could press the 5 agents' faces and I get a quick response. I don't know the answer. It's a great topic. Why aren't people treating federal case verdict as, at the very least, an indicator of which way the wind is blowing?
Right. Especially when it has the power to impact their income.
And the power, I think, more than their own income, I'm sure you'll agree, is affect positively your client. I mean, the client, if they're paying, just think about it, paying nothing in their mind, or not, let's say it this way, there's no outlay. There are a lot of people at all kind of price points. I mean, you're buying a house, not a pair of sneakers. So don't tell me that people wouldn't, in order to secure a living for their family, it might be on the ocean, it might be next to their mom, it might be in the right school system. I mean, are we completely preventing buyers from getting the best their money they can afford?
Best representation that they can get. Yes. And they deserve that. If they want to pay for that, why isn't anyone stepping up to the plate and saying,
Why is
hey,
no one offering that option and offering them even? I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy what I
I
call
don't
an
know.
adult.
And it's really baffling when I see this and we talk to people and they shut us down saying, no, 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 things are staying the same. No, 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 no. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to. I would rather debate the plaintiff's attorney. I would rather debate what's going on. I would rather stand behind the fact that we're going to appeal this, even though we may not have any money to do so. It doesn't make any sense to me. Forget all that. Take your focus off of that and put your focus in what is going to help your career and help your clients. When you do that and you're doing that effectively, nothing can stop you.
And if you're really trying to if you're really trying to get the best price and terms, well, price and terms are still applicable to buyers. So the price and terms might mean you could actually treat Setzer Burnett to be a groundbreaker, in that a real estate company could actually reject the offer of compensation, say, no thanks, we don't want to receive that income because we believe that if someone wants more, they should be allowed to pay more. I mean, think about it.
Agreed.
To prevent a party from securing the services of a professional is anti-capitalism. You're precluding them from getting what they need, and we're treating them like babies. So you tell me the entire national purchase market cannot make decisions for themselves. We have to provide a way for the agent to be compensated without the client's involvement. I'm so glad I'm being recorded. That was said well. So just think about it. I mean, it goes against every other business use. That means you go to a restaurant, you eat great, you didn't realize that you were charged too much for valet parking, and what if you charge nothing for valet? You could pay for anything you want on the menu. It's crazy. So maybe not a great example, but people are being denied the chance to secure the best professional for their needed services. It's a race. Who can answer me first? It's not, you wouldn't do that with a financial planner. You
No
wouldn't do that
way.
with a dentist. I mean, you wouldn't even do it with your hair salon. Who calls you back first? I got to know how I'm going to look every day.
Right. I want to know that you really know what you're doing. I want to know your experience level. And maybe I'm not even looking for that. Maybe I'm just looking, like I said before, maybe I don't want somebody who has all this experience because I'm shopping price and I just need the guidelines. I can figure out the rest myself. Or maybe I need somebody who's
Yeah, or
really
maybe this.
game and has
Maybe,
experience.
and I tell you, one of my business philosophies for me is that I always say, you got to be nice to me. If I don't go to dry cleaners if they're not nice to me. So you have, in my private dealings, you got to be nice to me. I went to Card Place yesterday. They're not nice. I fight with them every time. I'm stuck going there. But how about this? If you want a property and you think the only way to get that property is to go through an agent, you could get the agent that answers you back, that somehow subscribes or pays for that zip code connected to that property, and you might not get someone that you like. You might not feel that you're comfortable speaking to them, but they are tied like a barnacle onto that property. And once you have an interest, you're stuck with them. So why wouldn't I say, you know what? I love this realtor. I love my barber. I love my financial planner. I love my contractor. I love my dog groomer. Think about this. People are not even allowed to choose their professional, because if you're interested in Zillow, if you're interested in the property that comes in Zillow, it's attached to one or many
You get
agents.
what you get, right? You
Think
get what
about
you
it.
get.
So if there's 10
Now
agents that
that
are,
works before because you get what you get and you didn't have to sign anything and you didn't have the ability to negotiate at that time, which is going to change. So now I can go out and choose who I want to represent me. I can take my time. I can figure out exactly what I need at what price point and what kind of service I'm going to to mandate from the professional that I choose. And I think that is a great thing. And I think that this can go in a really good direction. So I wish everyone would stop being so angry, would stop debating all this all the time, and really step up their own professional game, learn how to do this and separate yourself from the rest. The smart agent is going to do this. That is the one that will survive.
or not. I mean, just maintain business as usual. My buddy said last night, business as usual. And I asked, that means he's not aware of all the legal proceedings that have occurred up to this point. And I asked, what is your broker saying? Not a word.
Nothing.
It's
Nothing.
really.
You told me you spoke to a broker and the broker said, well, I spoke to the attorney at the board and he said there's nothing that's come down, so everyone just needs to wait. And that was acceptable. That's not acceptable to me.
Well,
to me, I
do
want
need to
know
wait.
how am I going to survive this and how am I going to thrive and be better than everyone else so that I can be the one that everyone chooses. That is the smart business decision that could happen right now. And with that, I'm going to end this because I have to go.
Okay, great job. More information. Take care.